Hello everyone. Happy Sunday. I am your favorite Mindminx, and this of course is the Mindminx show. And today I have a super special guest by the name of Duane Burress Jr. Junior is important too. So Let me turn my Instagram around. And before I forget, we are live here at Mix Vibes Radio, my Sunday home. So hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. It's funny because like pimples, I usually don't get through. I have a pimple in my head. You got a pimple
today, so they
want. Yeah, exactly. You knew I was going to be on camera. I was like, all right, try to sabotage me. It does that all the time.
Well, that's okay. I think it kind of plays into the whole conversation of comedy. So.
Yeah, exactly. How your body sabotages you happens before a self-tape or anytime I'm going to be on camera. So I'm like, hopefully it doesn't pop during this whole thing. And
maybe it's nerves. Oh God, no! Don't let it do that. Well, we have napkins. Let it be interactive. So I want to thank you so much for coming in.
Of course. No, thank you guys. Seriously, for having me.
So I want to let everybody know I met Duane through the Mindminx show's official sponsor, Absalom, located at 223 in the Gras Ave in Teaneck. Dear Lord, she's gonna shoot me. And you actually host all of the comedy events at Absalom.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's good. It's funny because I usually have shows in New York, so this is the first time that I'm producing shows in Jersey.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, at first I didn't think much of Jersey, and I got there, I was like, you know what, it's not so bad. It's actually, Jersey's pretty good.
It'll do.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, what he just wrote you a note, so now I want to know, because like he now bunched it up and threw it away. So
no, now you won't know.
No.
That's it. I wrote him a note. Watch, he's gonna ask what I wrote.
Dude, I'm a female. You know, I need to know everything. I'm gonna be that vieja that like sticks her head out the window to watch everything that's going on.
¿Qué tú haces?
¿Qué está pasando?
Mira este.
So let's talk about your background. You are a Bronx native.
I am. Yeah, I was born in the Bronx, born in Morris Heights. I moved around for a bit until went to Harlem around September 2001.
Okay.
Then when I was in college, I lived in Philly, and then went back to Harlem. I moved back to the Bronx about 4 years ago. So I'm now near Bedford Park. It's pretty cool. It's quiet. It's a nice, quiet neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I mean, the worst thing, can you curse on here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, 100%. Yeah. Because the worst thing you have to deal with is like stepping in dog shit. So I'm like, I'll take that. Yeah, like over like worried about being stabbed. So I'm like, all right, cool.
I would take it as well.
Yeah.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, exactly.
So you actually went to the Professional Performing Arts School. Where's that located?
Yeah, so that's on 48th between 8th and 9th. So it's in Hell's Kitchen or Midtown. And yeah, it's like right in the heart of like the performing arts area where Broadway is. I went there for 3 years, graduated from there. Of course, for theater acting. And as a teen like that, I would never recommend anyone at that age going into the performing arts world. If you do, take some like mental health courses or something, because it is something else. Totally different world. Yeah.
Wow.
This before even like I even thought about comedy, but I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. I'll do theater acting, film acting. Yeah.
So is that what you grew up wanting to be? That's
what's crazy. I grew up. So I started off like I wanted to do visual arts. So I was like, all right, I'll be a visual artist. And then I went into like poetry and visual arts, and I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do at the time. Mm-hmm. And then one day when I was in middle school in 8th grade, we did Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I love Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, and I was like, all right. I mean, it's sort of like poetry. I did this anyway. All right, cool. Shakespeare. And I played Tybalt. And I remember after the show, I think it was like a day later, the principal came up to me. He was like, "Hey, just want to let you know you got the highest grade in the class. You might want to consider like doing this acting if you want to continue."
Really?
Just like yeah. I had no interest in doing it at all whatsoever. I was like, all right, something to do on a weekend. I'll figure it out. And my mom took me to a place called Manor House in East Harlem. And the first day, I think the teacher booked me for a show.
Really?
And like the feeling of being on stage and performing in front of people, like just acting, it was totally different than just poetry. But it was like, oh, this is, I want to stick with this. Let me pursue acting and then go
cool,
into
though.
Yeah. That's exactly how that happened.
Imagine if you never did that play.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, if I never, like, where would I be? I mean, before I was into track and field, I was a swimmer, I was an athlete, and I had no interest in the performing arts at all whatsoever. So it's like, all right, man, if I didn't do that play, if I decided to just, like, if I failed, even, maybe someone else in this chair, like, I don't know,
But it comes through generationally through your family, because the reason why, let's talk about why we can't forget the junior.
Yes. So, all right, so my parents so they're not in the performing arts, but they were involved in the performing arts.
Okay.
So my mother, she actually wanted to be an actress. She is an entertainer. She's entertaining as hell. My dad was a songwriter. The reason why the junior is important is because my dad wrote a song for Mary J. Blige called "I Love You," and if you type in his name, it will come up. So it's like, that's why the junior is important to make sure, because there are times where, like, on Instagram or on Facebook, someone would send him a friend request and he's like, "Duane, who the hell is this?" I'm like, that was meant for me. Or the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, "Oh, I'm here for your dad. I'm just looking for your dad." And it's like, "Dad, someone wants to contact you."
Is it people that you guys know, or just strangers?
Strangers. Yeah, it would just strangers. It was just it's funny because it's like, this is why we get examples every year as to why the junior is important.
So important.
Yeah, and that's a prime example.
I had it underlined like 3 times in my notes.
Yeah,
It's super important.
It's important when you have to do like either taxes, passport situations, whatever the case. If I get in trouble and I, say I owe money to somebody,
You could say it was your dad.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Well, Vic has the same problem too, because he's a junior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can imagine. Yes, you know how it is. Yeah, that's
Definitely.
I got a phone call the other day, and somebody was like, "I'm looking for Victor Rivera," and they're like, "Can you help?" And I was like, "Well, it depends. Are you talking about my husband or my father-in-law?"
Yeah. Wait, do you guys have do you have a middle name?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, same middle name and everything. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I can imagine that's even more difficult. Like, it'd be different. Like, oh, I could. The middle name is
pretty much the same, just senior and junior.
Yeah.
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 Nice. My name was actually. So not say my name. My dad's name was going to be something completely different. So I always I think his name was supposed to be. So my middle name is Segui, but it's spelled wrong. So it's like, so his name was supposed to be Diego Segui Grayson, I think, or something like that. And then I always wonder, like, would my mom had married someone named Diego? I don't know. Like, I'm like, would I be here if if the name didn't change? And Diego Segui was a baseball player, but I think the spelling was incorrect. So instead of Segui, it's Sigay. So for a while, until like 2 years ago, I was trying to figure out where the hell Segui came from, the Sigay, and it gave me like, there was an island in the Philippines. There's like, I'm like, where is it coming from? And then my dad told me, like, yeah, that's it's actually spelled incorrectly. So your name is not. Your name is unique, I guess, in a way.
It's still unique, but not what you thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember having this conversation with you, and I told you about my mother-in-law. So she was supposed to be Serafina.
Oh.
But her dad was, inebriated at her birth and said her name wrong.
That's right.
Sephirina.
Yeah.
Is now my mother-in-law.
That's good. I mean, that's That's good. It's better than like I can imagine having to mispronounce my. I mean, you have the Duane, which is also important to say because I think the Dwayne, that spelling of it is just lazy as hell. I would never say that to LaRock's face, but never. But I think this is So I'm glad it's at least Duane. Someone in Canada spelled it like Duain. I was like, why?
I wonder what the origin is of the name Duane.
Yeah, I'm
is it
curious
French?
too. Maybe, yeah. I have no idea. I have no idea. Now I have to look that up.
Now we have to look it
I
up.
looked up my middle name. Now I got to find out my first name.
And then you come out with a skit with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of skits, so all right, so you've gone to this. Wait, we were supposed to talk about the University of the Arts.
Yes, right. So in Philly, when I lived in Philly for that year, I went to University of the Arts, but I got kicked out after a year. So I remember I told you like earlier. I remember it was like 3 minutes ago. I was talking about when you're in your teens and you're in the performing arts. Like I don't recommend it unless you have like a mental health counselor with you at all times. And that took a toll on me. I took a year off, but our parents were like, "Oh, you either have to get a job, or you have to go to school." And I was like, "All right, I'll do both." And then ended up having the job, but I knew I wasn't ready for school. I was like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. Maybe I'll get over it, whatever I'm feeling.
Okay.
But it showed. I just never got over it. I was dealing with a lot of mental health challenges, and it showed in my work. Like I already came from a performing arts environment, so I already knew the curriculum. It was pretty much having to start from scratch, which I didn't want to do. So that took a toll. I was away from home. That was another thing, and they were like, you either, I mean, what did they say? They said they had a whole meeting too. It was like,
wow.
He's like, we don't think you belong here. We think you belong in New York or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess. It was like, if you do well, you could prove that you could do well in 2 years and you can come back. And I couldn't even do that because that was on my record.
Oh.
So I couldn't even go into any other college. Like I tried to go into BMCC and they were like, no, you got kicked out of college. You can't come here. You can't. Yeah. I was like, all right, well, I guess that's done. That's so I had to deal with my mental health challenges throughout the years, and that was a whole other, yeah.
But you actually did deal with it, and actually you are a licensed social worker?
So I was certified in peer specialist work, a couple years ago. They were just incidents they were just piling on, and I was like, I want to figure out what's going on up in here. So I got certified peer specialist work, and I mean, at least I am aware of what I'm feeling.
Okay.
And I have the tools to at least change that, and sometimes I'll slip up. It happens. But at least I wanted to help me or my family, my friends especially, so that helped. Yeah, it was pretty good.
So when you say peer, are you saying like similarly aged, or are you talking children?
Oh no, anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, just a friend as opposed to, or as opposed to like an age range. It's just more anyone who wants me to facilitate their recovery process or something like that, which is what I would do.
What does that consist of?
It could mean, it could just, some people just want somebody to talk to.
Right.
Also, the tools that they would need is like, I'm trying to think of an example. Realizing like interdependence is important because some people feel like they can do it themselves.
Right.
But interdependence is like you can do it yourself, but just know that to better your recovery process, other people, you just have to be open to other people doing it for you as well, or supporting you.
Right.
Just open for to support. And then a little after that, I started taking a self-help group or class, of course, this year. And then learning the tools from that, and as opposed to like setting goals for yourself, like 30-day, 60-day, 90-day goals for yourself. And then also realizing that, so you look at the world, you visualize how you want to see the world, and then realize that in order for that to happen, you have to emulate that. So for me, I've always wanted to see the world as being like authentic, loving, free. But in order for that to happen, I have to be an example of
I
those
agree.
things.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
then recognizing that, recognizing the patterns that you have. That sometimes it will stop you from doing like activities of daily living. Something as simple as like getting out of bed, like just recognizing when you're getting too comfortable and your body has what they call like what they do is like pain avoiders. So your body is comfortable being in pain because that's what it's used to, but it's recognizing that and trying to get out of that or
Okay.
committing to getting out of it. That's what it would consist of.
I love that you do that because it's so, and we actually talked about this on, so Duane is also one of the 4 panel of lit theories.
Yeah.
You kind of got thrown into that.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I still, yeah, I enjoyed it. I was like,
You're the male opinion in there because it's very much estrogen driven. But we talked about depression of just a few weeks ago, and
Yeah.
it's nice to know that there's a lot of outlets out there
Yeah.
and available.
Yeah.
Now, how do you think that your comedy is driven by whatever facet of your life is causing you anxiety?
That is a great question, and I'm gonna say yes. Actually, yeah, that's a great question. So at first, when I started doing stand-up, my parents didn't believe me because they thought I was like too dramatic, too depressed to even like consider. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try it out and see what happens. And a lot of the stories that I tell on stage are just hyperbolic versions of just things that have happened in my life. So I think like I talk about like having anxiety, which I mean I'm better with it now, but it's, when it comes to like depression or when it comes to situations that have happened in my life that I'll exaggerate the hell out of, but it helps when you're on stage. You're the most vulnerable that you can be on stage. So
Sure.
when it goes well, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. It's like
It's therapeutic.
yes,
in a sense.
that's what exactly what it is. It is therapeutic.
I mean, so
Yeah.
I look at it this way, and everybody's always like, "Why do I have vomit of the mouth?" And I'm like, because if I don't get it out, it's gonna just build up, and then I'm gonna implode.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I literally tell everybody everything to a fault. Like
Yeah.
I need to like rein it in just a little bit. But I think it's similar for you, where it's therapeutic. Don't hold on to it. You
Yeah.
can't hold on to
You
it.
can't. Any thought that comes to mind, write it down, which I'm still learning how to do. Because one, you're gonna forget, for sure. But also, I make up you're gonna forget. I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I'll forget. So I'll write down any thought that comes to mind, and then something like if something reminds me of something, whatever the case, I'll probably. I mean, I'm not necessarily. I won't test out material with people, but I'll just go based on like everyday stories. I'll listen to people, which is also very important because a lot of people they talk but they don't necessarily listen.
Nobody listens.
Yeah, and I think listening is important when it comes to, which ties into like peer specialist work. It's just a matter of listening, because some people just want to get out what they want to get out, and it's therapeutic for them. And for me, that's how stand-up is. Like when people are, when they want to recover from their mental health challenges, that's kind of like what stand-up is for me. And there are times where I would like lose the passion for it, which happens as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's like life. There's still other things you have to deal with, like there's financial issues that you have to, try and sort out, or relationship issues, whatever the case. And it sort of, it can cause you to shut down, but it's just recognizing when you do, and recognizing when you're about to fall back into that.
That's a lot of pressure, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, all right, let me just say what I want to say on stage and not have to worry about. It's like living my most authentic self.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have a question, and it's, like I bounce around. So I have self-diagnosed ADD, so adult ADD. I'm not a,
Sure.
maybe. It depends on the tantrum. It depends on the day. So when you were saying that, some people just want to tell somebody
Yeah.
what's happening, how do you bring yourself to just listen? Like I don't have the patience to like listen. So like, God bless you for being able to.
No, it is difficult because one of the triggers that I have wwould be like just non sequiturs. Like whenever I have a problem keeping up. So when then someone goes from like topic to topic, I'm like trying to catch up, and then I get overwhelmed, and I'm like, what? Like even group chats, I can't even. I need like one group chat, and then I'm set. If I get like 5 different group chats, I'm gonna shut down. I can't listen anymore. I won't be able to. I choose not to. I'll say that. But usually it's just, I guess before, no, because sometimes people would hit you out of nowhere and just start talking. Which happens. Yeah. So I think in the moment, just realizing that you are, in a sense, giving them, not giving them a gift, but.
No, I think you're right in saying that. And this is why I bring it up, because we're still human. So even though you are a certified peer, blah, 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 I don't remember the rest. I'm sorry. You're still human. Yeah. So what if you're not you're supposed to be on call, like you're on duty, but what if you're not having the best day? So the fact that you're still able to do this, like I wouldn't be able to. Yeah. Like I remember coming into studio, and he's like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm just not having a good day." He's like, "Well, you better get out of it. I was like, "I'll be on for it." But it's it was an hour of, I don't want to say torture because I love what I do. Yeah. But it was definitely an hour of forced. Yeah. And I deserve an Academy Award for it.
Nice.
So I'm just.
That, Mike?
What?
Sounds like a bunch of.
What?
I can't call her for help though. I can't be like, hey, you know what? You got a minute? Yeah, I'll call you back. Don't call me during payroll. Damn. And then I look and she puts me on ignore. I'm like,
I did not put you on ignore. No, wait. The other day he texted me. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are my busiest days in the office, and he texted me, and I was like, I can't answer. And if I look at it, I'm not gonna know that he texted me, and I'm gonna completely forget. So like a couple hours later, he's like, hey, call me when you got a minute. So I call him. He's like, now I know you're mad at me. You didn't answer my text message.
Yeah. Like, don't disrupt me. It's payroll.
It's payroll.
Oh, yeah. I was especially when it's payroll.
Yeah. I'm like, but I got an emergency. I'll call you back. I'm like, that's my one phone call.
So point is, I think it's pretty awesome that you're able to do this, because it's there's not one person that has it all put together, and the fact that you put it together for somebody else, even for whatever that short interim of time is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's 45 million people in the United States 18 or over are suffering from some sort of mental health challenge. And it's important, words matter as well. Like the phrase, just saying challenge, the word challenge, instead of saying mental health illness, because challenge is something that you can get over. So you want to give someone the hope that they can get over this challenge. Sure. Yeah, so it's, I can't say insane, but it's it bugs me out sometimes that at some point, someone here, at least just in the United States alone, I'm just speaking for this country, but we will suffer from some mental health challenge, and it's important to know that someone, you can always ask for help. Yeah, that's
awesome. And do you want to say where you're working or the organization that you're with, so that we can?
Oh, that's the thing. Right now I don't do it as often as Okay. So when I got certified, it was it's crazy because it started off. There was a college in the Bronx that I started taking classes on. It's crazy how things happen, because right across from there, I was like, oh, I need a job. I'm going to work at a hotel. And then there was like a Thrive at Work. And there was another one. And later on, it just went into like anyone that would ask for help, like family members or friends or whatever the case. I have the certificate at home, so it's more of like, hey,
you didn't bring it with you.
I know, I should have. Yeah, I had no idea, because it's been so long. I don't do it as often as I used to, but it was more of like, oh, hey, I should have brought it with me. I should have done like, hey, here's proof. Yeah, every few years I'll renew it, and then
Oh, so you keep it current?
I try and keep it current. Yeah.
Paul commented, comedy is the solution to most problems.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't think it's a mask?
I do think it is for some people.
Yeah.
Because some people will go on stage and which is okay. A lot of it is like self-deprecating humor. And then after a while, it's like you have to look back and think like, okay, well, why am I doing this on stage? Like, I'll speak for myself. Like, there are times before where I would have some self-deprecating humor, and then realizing like I'm still living that life that I like literally speaking about on stage. So I'm like, okay, well, what is it that I need to change? And when my situation changes, the jokes change as well.
Really? So
it's weird because a lot of people, of course, can relate to certain mental health challenges, so they'll laugh at someone else's pain. So if you're doing well, like, no one wants to hear that, like, oh, so I made $100 million the other day. Like, no one's gonna. That's no. They want to hear that you're broke, that you're suffering, that you're. Yeah. So it can be a mask sometimes, but also, if it's you, I mean.
So when you said once you get over the trauma, the joke changes a little bit. When the joke changes, is that when you kind of realize like, oh shit, I got over this?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Because I do talk about anxiety a lot. And not even that. Like when I there was a time where I dealt with financial issues. And this is how I know like how I'm doing in just in life in general. When I'm dealing with financial issues, I'll tell jokes about being broke. And then it came a point where I was like, oh, okay, it looks like I'm set. I'm okay with that right now. I'm not dealing with financial trouble, so I wouldn't say the joke.
Okay.
And I'm like, I started to realize that pattern. I was like, oh, shit, I'm not. I seem to be doing okay.
That's kind of cool feeling.
Yeah. And then when I start telling the joke again, I'm like, oh, that's a reminder, recognizing the patterns. Like, oh, shit, okay, I am in financial trouble. I need to take care of this.
Yeah.
I'll come up with some new material, something. I gotta find something to do.
Well, speaking of new material, what is the process of actually writing?
Yeah.
Comedy.
I mean, of course, like when you think of something, you write it down. But like one time, I mentioned this before the show. Like one of the jokes that I had took like 8 hours, and that was like during my. I used to work overnights at a hotel, which was hell. For like 4 years, and so I used that time. I was like, I'm alone, let me just start writing, and it took me that entire shift to write a 3-minute joke.
Wow. And
it was just I don't know if it's because like you sometimes think like, am I intelligent? Why does it take like 8 hours to do a 3-minute joke? But it's pretty much when you're alone, like people just need I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Like, in order for me to think, I need to listen to like either hip hop, jazz.
Okay.
I'll eat some like blueberries, whatever the case, and I'm like, that's
specific.
Yeah, that's specific. Yeah. So people have their own what is the word?
Method.
Yeah, their own method in terms of like how to just like the writing process.
Yeah.
But if you write everything down, for me, I start to realize like most of it won't work until like maybe like 5 years later. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I remember that joke I wrote down before, but now I can tie into something that's going on today, and then I'll just put it together. But you pretty much test it out when you're on stage.
Yeah.
So like when you write it, it sounds good in your head.
Right.
But you won't know if it goes well until you do it a couple of times on stage. And that's like pretty much the process of writing a joke. When you say it on stage, you're like, okay, that didn't work for this crowd. Let me change it up a bit. Also, the cadence, how you say it matters as well.
Sure.
So that you start to figure out when it comes to like specific crowds as well. And then if it's not working for any crowd, just throw it.
Scrap it.
Yeah, just throw the whole joke
So
away.
How many audiences do you go through before you're like, all right, that's
like,
it.
Yeah.
this did not work. This 8 hours that I spent.
I think like, yes, I don't know if this is what it's supposed to be, but it usually takes like 6 to 7.
Okay, so you're giving it its due diligence.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There are jokes that I still tell that I wrote 6 years ago, and I don't know if that's even healthy. I have no idea, but there's jokes that I'm like, I'm gonna hold on to this because I know there's something there, but I have to tweak it a little bit. Maybe it's how I deliver the punchline or whatever the case.
Okay.
If it's more of like an intimate setting, of course you're not gonna say it as if you're doing it in front of 500,000 people. I mean, you can if you have the energy for it. That's great, but for me, it wouldn't be authentic for me if I did that. So it's like, okay, let me tell the joke, but I'm gonna tone it down a little bit, and speak to someone on a more personal level. I'll like target someone in the audience.
Is it hard or easier to engage with the audience?
It is. I give props to anybody that can host, because you can do a 10-minute set comedy. You have your type 5, whatever the case. That's great. But to read the room instead of just telling jokes, but to read the room and to have that personal connection with the audience, because they came there, of course, they want to laugh. They might have had the shittiest day before then, and I don't know if they just want to watch like a comedian just do their 10 minutes and then they want to leave, but to have that personal connection with the audience is important, especially when people tend to close off. A lot of people also don't like that attention as well.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Yes. That's the thing. Like, one thing I noticed is like from producing shows, one thing that I noticed is like when people start coming in, they immediately go to the back. They don't want to sit in the front. They are, they're afraid that the comedian is gonna, either talk shit about them or whatever the case. But
all the comedian did was ask me my name. I was like, you want to know my name?
Yeah, exactly. Something as simple as that. Yeah, that can give an audience member so much anxiety.
It did.
So you make them feel comfortable in that space. If you can do that, props to you guys. Just props to the comedians that are able to host the show and to carry the show, because you set the tone for the entire show. Yeah.
How do you deal as the actual performing comedian?
Yeah.
How do you deal when there's like crickets? Like when you tell your joke and then there's like.
Yeah. So I can tell you what I try not to do. I try not to say things like, "What else did I talk about?" Then like the audience knows like, okay, well they're bombing.
Yeah.
They know you're bombing already, but it's like you're making it worse. You're just. And then another thing I try not to say is like, I try not to. One, don't shit on the crowd. Like, for me, I try not to shit on the audience. If they didn't think it was funny, they didn't think it was funny. Like, it's not, I just dealt with this, too. It's funny because a couple of weeks ago, I had a crowd that already heard my jokes. Like, they already heard the jokes that I had, but they came back. But I was like, all right, let me go on stage. And I had no plans on performing at all whatsoever, but I wanted to at least try to bring the energy up. And that didn't work. That was a total fail because they already heard the joke. They already knew what was coming. So
it's not
it was
funnier
like
the second
it wasn't
time?
like it was funny, but it was like okay, like let me get to the next. Yeah,
what else you got?
Yeah, exactly. So then that's when like crowd work comes in, and that's why it's important to write things down. When you notice some things, you kind of piece it together and tie it into a joke that you remember you had like 5 years ago, whatever the case. But when it's crickets, it's usually just get through it.
Yeah,
there's nothing
just
you can
keep
do.
going.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, it's like you're running a marathon at this point. Like when you're at like I don't know how many miles is a marathon? Like 26.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
They
never
shut
ran.
down.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They shut down the whole city for it.
Yeah, no, my knees. I can't even think about running right now. But I think that. It's like running I'm assuming like running a marathon. It's just a matter of like you just gotta keep going, and when you finish, it's done. You can stop it short, but it's just like, all right, what did I do? How do I get better next time? Being prepared, I realize, is also another thing as well. Was I prepared? I always ask that question.
Okay.
When I bomb, that happened to me the second time I ever did stand up. I was so confident after my first set. Because I was like, oh, my first set did fairly well, that the second time I went, I didn't look over my notes. I had way too much to drink. Yeah, so I was just like talking on stage, and then, and my parents were there. I remember like afterwards they were like, don't you ever do that. Don't you ever perform without being prepared. Like they were pissed. And from there I was like, okay, I'm gonna at least prepare for each time I do a set. At least do that. But you just gotta get through it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing I can do. I'll figure it out.
So I see my engineer with his little notepad and his pen. So before he even writes it down.
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? She's talking to him, but she's like this.
Oh, no.
It's in the peripherals.
No, if I'm talking too much, please let me know.
No, not at all. No, I need
Right,
to. I just want to remind everybody we're live on Mixed Vibes Radio. Don't forget to like, add, share. The phone lines are open if anybody wants to call 718-616-9971.
Come on.
There
you go.
I did it.
Nice.
But he's still writing. So what else did I
So you
forget?
don't know what I was gonna write. Yes.
Asshole.
I got a question. I'm gonna hijack your show for 1 second.
Okay.
A comedian that you do look up to.
Comedians I look up to. Everyone says Chappelle. And I agree, and I know that there's a lot of I know there's I don't want to because I know there's a lot of controversy behind.
That's a lot to unpack.
I know, yeah. So I'm let me get that out the way. I like when it comes to his storytelling and being able to I love the storytelling of Chappelle. I love the physical comedy sometimes of Sebastian Maniscalco.
Okay.
Is he the Italian one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Funny. Yeah. There's also. I mean, back then my dad used to watch comedy shows all the time. He used to
George Carlin.
George Carlin. Yeah.
Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
Exactly. Eddie Murphy. So I, of course, those comedians. Yeah. I know there are more. There are plenty of more. There are also some that I look up to that aren't, I guess, famous or yet. I mean, maybe they will be, but there are some of my peers that I look up to that I'm like, oh, you guys are, I don't know how you do it, but you guys are good. You guys are, you know what you're doing. And it makes me think I have a lot to learn, and it helps. Yeah.
Do you feel cursing in your jokes does it enhance your joke at all?
Sometimes it does. I had to do a set in front of children, so I was like, okay, how can I word this? Yeah, how can I rephrase everything?
Well, it's Kids Bop of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
He was like, "Don't be the back of the donkey."
Yeah, it's even the subject matter. I can't be you cursing. You can't be oh, eating ass. If you tell a joke about eating ass,
You can't do the in and
you
out
can't
burger.
you can't do that. Yeah, but even if you take out the ass part, you're oh, eating. Then that still doesn't work. Can't do that for the children. So I'm all right, we gotta X that joke altogether. You're what's the deal with airline food or something? I don't know, something. Yeah.
Mommy, what's he eating?
What's he eating?
Can we try that?
The back of the donkey. That's the skin on the back of the donkey.
Exactly. So it is. It doesn't have to necessarily, but. It does work depending on how I deliver the joke. That was another struggle too, because my parents, when they saw me do stand-up, it was the first time that I actually used profanity in front of my parents. So it was something that they had to get used to. But and they did. They still, they're used to it. But I was afraid of that as well, because I don't even know if I did for my first set. Maybe I did. If I did, it was probably one word or something that I said. But yeah.
Is this something you had to get comfortable with doing? I need to curse. People are always you shouldn't curse. It's called a bad word for a reason. And I'm just there's no way to accentuate the point that I'm trying to make without using that. Yeah,
so the thing is, I'm living my authentic self when I do. So if I feel like I have to tone it down, whatever the case, which is fine. I can still do that authentically, I guess. If I feel like I have to tone it down, it won't be the same. I'm trying to. I am careful in terms of the certain there are certain phrases or words that I would use that I would not use.
Okay.
Only because it's not me. I don't use them outside of comedy. Why would I start using them during my set?
Love it.
But it's only words that I would use just outside of comedy. I wouldn't try and say a word that I've never I don't say in my on a daily basis. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna try shit out on stage. I'm just gonna just be myself.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it depends.
Okay. Alrighty. Are you done?
Yeah.
Bogarting my show?
Sorry.
No, you're good. That was good.
See, I was gonna tell her, I mean, like, maybe I should try like an open mic night at Absalom.
Yeah, definitely.
They do
Because
it.
all I gotta do is really just
Talk
say-
about the show.
Talk about my background. Like, like everybody that when I tell people my background, they're like, no way. Like, come on, man. It's like,
Yo, he has some great
You know.
stories.
Yeah, please do
Like,
it.
it's
Yeah.
The couch.
it's just
Like the couch, yes.
The couch.
How it ended up in the middle of the road.
I'd be like,
You definitely have to. You'd be surprised. Like a lot of people are of course, and I was too. Like I had no plans of doing stand up at all whatsoever. Like it happened because I was drunk. That's how I started. And then once I got on there, I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll keep doing this.
So no
This is
stage
fun.
fight? Like I understand
No,
when you're drunk, there's
you
like
get this,
zero
like,
filters.
Yeah, so you know what it is? So what happened was, okay, so I was already an actor. I've already been on stage. So I was like, I was used to that. But I mean,
Okay.
stand-up is different because it is totally different from acting. Because one, you're the most vulnerable. I feel like I'm the most vulnerable when I'm on stage doing performing comedy than I am acting.
Yeah, sure.
Also, like, if the writing sucks when I'm acting, I'm like, well, that's not on me. That's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
you gotta blame
you
the
can't
writer.
blame anybody.
Yeah. I'm doing stand up. The writing sucks. The delivery, the personality. They're like, that's all you. That is no one else's fault. You can't blame the audience. You can't blame the lights. Like, oh, the light was no.
The light was in my eye.
Yeah, like don't no. So when I first started, it was a friend of mine who was a stand-up comedian. He wanted me to see him perform, and I kept bailing out. Then one day I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll go see him perform. We drank a lot. And when we pulled up to the venue, the producer came out. He thought the both of us were performing. But when you're drunk, you say things.
Like,
and oh, if you need me to, I'll, if you need me to improvise, I can. And he was like, okay, so in 2 weeks you're gonna be here. And I was like, wait, I'm not a comedian. I'm not. He's like, no, just try it, just see, just bring your family, friends. We'll see what happens.
Bring your family up.
And yeah, that's like, all right, cool. So I'm freaking out for like 2 weeks. I'm like, what am I gonna say? How am I gonna do this? I was like, I thought I can cheat. So I was like, let me write my notes on my hand. So when I hold the microphone, I can see it. And then I'm like, okay, cool. But, me being a dumbass that day, washed my hands before the show. I had the notes down. So I had to improvise like the second half of my set. Yeah, I was like, okay. But it ended up, it went well that first time.
Obviously.
Yeah. Then I was like, oh, I like this feeling. Let me do it again. So you'd be surprised. Like, once you go up there, the most vulnerable you can be on stage.
what?
You should do it.
Yeah.
You've already said
This was me. This is exactly.
I honestly was giving it a lot of thought for a while. Like no joke. Like my biggest fear was talking on the mic, but I'm not scared of talking on the mic anymore. Like you guys know that I was terrified of it at first. Otherwise, I would have been DJing and talking on the mic. But right now, I feel comfortable. I feel I'm okay. But it's just.
I know.
You've already spoken into the universe.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's already spoken into the universe.
I think everyone should at least. I invite everyone to try it at least one time.
At Absalom.
Yes, at Absalom. Yes, exactly. Comfortable setting, comfortable situation.
Super comfy.
Yeah. Everyone's there to have a good
You might
time.
fall asleep, actually.
Wow.
They'll be like, no way, all this shit happened to you. Yeah.
You do have a lot of stories. Border Patrol officer.
Just like.
But you
go.
have the best stories because of your, what's it called? Bail bondsman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You do have a
That's
lot of
a
good
good
stories.
Love stories, yeah. He was, yeah.
Oh man.
What?
Oh boy.
Old boy. I don't get it.
You're saying, "Oh man."
I got a lot of stories.
Oh, because
There's a
you're
lot of-
old.
Yeah.
No, when it
'Cause
comes
you're
down, when it
old.
comes down to that, what do you call him out old?
Damn.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Oh no. Yeah, he was doing. He was like, "Oh man," like, "Oh man," like that was.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Not called old. It's experience. stories.
Experienced?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're seasoned.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh man," like I thought. Oh, okay, got it. See, now I'm. Yeah, I got confused. That's. With that, yeah, definitely do that. And see, that's the thing. Absalom, like everyone's there, they having a good time.
Yeah.
There's no rush to get out. It's just like we're here. We want to. The audience is.
How do
Yeah.
you prepare for a show?
Oh man.
Because like, do you practice talking your joke, like saying, repeating it, or
Yeah.
like? 'Cause
I do.
I don't know if I would even be able to do that shit. Like, I just let it freestyle. Like, just
Yeah.
let's go. You know, I want to tell you what happened.
Yeah. Normally I would.
We'll give you a drink.
Yeah. That
Oh, yeah.
does help. Yeah.
No, let me tell you the drink story. At least,
Oh, dear
I'll
Lord.
tell
Oh, we're
you my
done?
drink story slightly. Okay. I had a problem DJing
Okay.
back in the 90s.
Because he sucked.
I was terrified
No, I'm just
talking
kidding.
on the microphone, and I used to DJ like in one of the clubs, big club in New York, and I would just help out, like with the DJ breaks and stuff. But I was terrified, man. I couldn't talk on this shit for nothing. I would choke.
Yeah.
And I said, let me get a drink, loosen me up, So I will go to the bar, and I told the bartender, I'm like, let me get a Long Island iced tea, water it down. He's like, what the fuck? Water it down. So I'm not a drinker, so I'm thinking it's gonna give me fucking tea with some fucking liquor in it, and that's it. I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Gives me the Long Island iced tea. All I remember. No, I don't remember. But all I remember is waking up in my car the next day in the parking lot while the club was closed. They closed me.
Oh,
they
my
put me in my
God.
car and locked the doors and locked me inside the parking lot. And the next day I had to go back to the club. So
Yeah.
Saturday night, here we are. I go home, shower, come back, and I'm like, what happened last night? And everybody's like, yo, you were DJing pretty good, man. Like, fuck, you were dope. And I was like, let me get a drink. They're like, fuck that. No more drinks for you. And I'm like, why? And he's like, you took a sip of, just a sip of your cup. And you're asking me like a jackass, why are those people running on TV? You're watching a baseball game. And I'm like, I was watching a baseball game. So shit like that, like,
Yeah.
that's my club adventure.
Yeah.
That shit that's happened to
Aw.
me.
And it helped.
You know?
I mean, he said the DJ was pretty good, so maybe a drink would help in terms of preparing for a set.
Not even a shot, though. They can't give you a shot.
Took a sip. Yeah,
Gone.
that'll do it.
It was the tequila, I bet you.
I don't know what it was. I
Well, if you had a Long Island iced tea, there was tequila in there.
I know it wasn't a 4C. Like, yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's one way. I mean, I used to do that. I used to have a drink before a show, and then I realized like there are times where I would just I would focus more on the drink than the actual set. So I'm like, all right, let me put the drink down, and
Yeah.
Then when I got comfortable, I was like, okay, maybe I'll have a drink while I'm on stage. But usually I would prepare by I would have to see the crowd. Like I have a sense of what I want to say, but once I see how the crowd is, I'm like, okay, I can also, I mean, it depends on how many people are before you, but if you're first or if you're hosting, whatever the case, you get a feel of what where the crowd is, what they like.
Fuck that. No, this ain't Squid. This ain't Squid Game. You ain't pushing me off that fucking bridge. I'm not going first.
Yeah,
Thank God we finished watching it, so I know what you're talking about.
Spoiler alert! No. Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be just be as prepared as you possibly can. Just being in the moment. That's I guess advice. I'm not crazy about advice because I know it works for different people, but for what I would do, then it goes back to speaking for myself. I would just try and be as prepared as I could.
Like one thing I know, I like I told her with radio that I've learned.
Yeah.
Is never allow dead air. Keep that. Think of your microphone as waves in water, and make sure just give it no time to not stay away from words like trip words, you know.
I do it still. I mean, I've done it here. I was the
Let's count how many times.
How many times did I say Yeah, the thing is, I usually, I was just about to do it. When it comes to that, in your head, you have a feeling, when you write a joke, you have a feeling of how it's going to go in your head, and then it ends up being a complete opposite. And then that's where sometimes the dead air comes in, because you're like, okay, I think they're going to laugh at this joke, and then I'll take a pause, and they don't laugh, and it's like, oh, shit, okay, I got to think about the next joke. Sometimes you just did. Sometimes you just forget about what the joke is. Oh, what the,
now you're going to notice
every time, yeah, every time. But you start to realize, like, okay, well, I think that you start to forget what your next joke is going to be because you didn't get the reaction that you wanted. So you just prepare for anything. Prepare for anything. If there is dead air, just...
Can you work that into your joke?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I guess you can. You could just... what do I usually do? If there's dead air...
Like, do you let them know? Like,
no, I don't. I know there are people that do, and sometimes it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does work sometimes, and I give them props for that. But for me, I usually tell a joke that I didn't necessarily plan on telling. I'm like, let me just get rid of this dead air by telling the joke anyway and see what happens. Or I would ask somebody a question, or I'll ask like, which is probably something I shouldn't do. I was like, what should I talk about? And it's like, well, they didn't come here for that. They didn't, you were supposed to just.
But do you have that heckler who'll be like this and hope that you're not prepared for it?
Yeah, I've had hecklers before. I've had drunk people, of course, they're having a good time. They want to be part of the show, and they're like, I'm assuming at some point they felt like they put themselves on stage and like, oh, I can do this better than you could. And once they got that feeling, once that happens and they drink, it's a wrap. They're gonna heckle the shit out of you the rest of the night. There's also, I've had one person, I was like performing in front of like 5 people, and one audience member was like, come on, we got places to be. I was like, oh, damn, like, okay, that's it, that's my set. I have to go to work. That was like working overnight. I was like, I'm just going to go to work. You guys have been great, and that was it. That was pretty much it. When they started doing virtual comedy shows, like during the pandemic, they would have virtual comedy, and even then, like, somebody would go into the Zoom and like do some bullshit, like say some random, like, scream or something, like during your set, and then leave. It's like, oh my goodness.
Wow, they were bored.
Yeah,
they were bored.
You gotta figure out sometimes. It's like, you respond to that. I don't like to pretend it didn't happen. So I notice, like, when I do that, when I pretend like it didn't happen, it sort of kills the energy. Because the audience want to address what just happened. Yeah. They want to be in the moment with you. So it's like, that's I've had hecklers, yeah.
So how did we go from Duane Burress Jr., comedian, to DBJ comedy?
Yes. Man. Okay. So a lot of people, what I'm going to say, I know there are people that are going to hear this and will be a little upset.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, but nothing like crazy. But so I used to, when I first started doing stand-up, I used to perform for what they call bringer shows. And a bringer show is usually like a producer or a bringer producer. They'll say, they usually target someone who wants to try stand-up.
Okay.
And they'll say like, hey, in order for you to perform, they'll get like a venue that has like 60 people in it.
Okay.
And they'll say, hey, in order for you to perform, you have to bring 5 or more people in order for that to happen.
Okay.
If you can't do that, then I can't have you perform.
Okay.
So then they'll get like 12 comedians, and they'll tell them the exact same thing. So you have 12 comedians that bring like 5 people. So you sell out the place, yes. Did you do the work? No. The comedians did.
Right.
So you would do that, and you would have this show of random comedians trying out, just doing things that people would pay money to see 12 comedians back to back. And then what ends up happening is they usually won't get paid for it, the comedians. They have to then pay for their video, which is another thing if they want the footage of it. And I started doing that, and then one time I brought in 35 people.
Wow.
I had family coming in from down south. I had family coming in from everywhere. And what ended up happening, I didn't get a cent from that at all whatsoever. And the show ended because it was almost an altercation. So I remember thinking, like, these comedians are being scammed.
Sure.
Like, this is like, they are targeting, and I know, like, a lot of them, when you ask them too, which bugged me out, because when you ask them, they say, well, it's a business. And it's like, you are completely forgetting the art, the process, like just the art part of it. It is also, the comedy is art. So when I started DBJ Comedy, I wanted comedians to have the incentive to want to perform, because I lost that incentive to perform because of that.
Wow.
I was like, if that's how this business is going to be, then I want no part of it. But then it was more of like, okay, how can I change it? How can I create the world that I would want? Speaking about earlier, it's like, in order, how I view the world, I have to emulate that.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put on a production. I want to put on a show that I would want to see. I don't want to see 12 comedians back to back.
That's a lot.
Doing, like 5 to 10 minutes. That's too much. Plus, you have to be out at a certain time or whatever the case. And also give comedians, they perform all the time. A lot of comedians, they perform like 7 times maybe in one night. And I want to give them at least the incentive to earn some money from it. So I started DBJ Comedy. And I started at Broadway Comedy Club, and I had the email already, and I told the owner that I was already a producer, which I wasn't. I lied, but I was like, oh, I'm a producer. I knew how the process worked, and he asked, like, how can you get people in and whatnot. And so before the pandemic, things were actually going really well in different venues, Williamsburg, Greenwich, or wherever I was. It was going fairly well. And I wanted to have like musical guests involved.
Oh, so it was a whole full production.
I was like, I'm gonna put on a production, just a show that I want to see. Yeah, and that's how. In my family, they started off. They were coming to shows first as like protection, because I didn't have an online system.
Okay.
So they knew I was like handling cash, and then when I had an online system, they were like, hey, you know what? We're here for support. So I'm glad that happened. So my family is a part of it as well. Yeah, it's not just.
So I got to see some of your comedians on Friday night.
Yeah, exactly.
They were hysterical.
That's good. Yeah, and I want the audience leaving like, oh, you know what? I spent money to see a show and I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Like, at least for them to enjoy it. Yeah, exactly.
That's the point.
And the comedians as well. I want them to feel like when they perform that they can trust me. They're not going to screw them over.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah.
But like the age of like scamming comedians, I one day just want that to just
go away,
dissipate. Yeah. So that was the plan. That was the goal. And that's how DBJ Comedy got started. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, I remember saying to you, I was giving out my business card like a freak on Friday night, because there's two. Well, and I forgot his Glenn.
Yes.
Glenn with his beard.
Yeah.
It's fucking hysterical.
Hilarious.
So I want to talk really quick. We're already at the hour mark, but I wanted to say, like, I see that there's different approaches that each comedian has, and like Glenn I felt like was doing like dad jokes, but it was so funny.
Yeah,
so funny. And then who was the guy before him? And he said he was Jewish.
Yeah,
Andy. Yes, Andy Troy.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
He was hysterical because, like, I work for Hasidic Jews that are from Brooklyn, so to hear him having these conversations,
that's
can't do anything on a Friday night. And then you had one who, in my opinion, and he said he only got that one time before, so I'm going to take credit for letting him know that I think he looks like Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I know you, Scott. Yes.
Yeah, Scott. I'm like, really? He's like, maybe I've heard that once before, so I'm taking credit for that. Mindminx says this guy looks exactly like Paul. Not exactly, like if he had darker hair.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah,
no,
I didn't think about that.
That's all I see.
That's true.
And then the teacher, which I think is hysterical, that he's a teacher who's
Taylor,
saying,
Like kids.
he doesn't like. That's I completely commiserate. I've got 5 of them. I commiserate.
Right, because he does musical comedy,
Yes.
which is a whole other thing
Yeah.
as well. And
That was good.
that was the other thing too. It was a matter of like finding people in different. Because I have a friend Justin Davis. He does musical comedy shows. He writes his own songs. But I know like that's a different market as well, because there are people that don't get the chance to perform their original work musical comedy wise, and that was perfect. Yeah,
That was great.
Taylor
That
was
was
able
so
to do
funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
And your host was super. Like his laugh, you could hear. He has such
I know,
an
yeah.
infectious laugh.
Yeah.
He was funny.
He's yeah.
I think he's the one that asked me my name.
Yes.
Oh, okay. He's gonna be here Friday too at
Yeah?
Absalom. Yeah, he's gonna host again. Yeah, he's supportive. When they see that you're supporting them, there's reciprocity.
Yep.
It's gonna be they're gonna give you the same energy.
Well, it was a great show from start to finish.
Nice.
Although
Thank
you didn't perform.
I didn't. It is honestly performing and producing
Yeah.
is difficult.
I saw you with your clock to see their time,
Yeah.
and I kept
Yeah.
asking,
Yeah.
and you were taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
I think at one point I walked across and I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No. Yeah, you were fine. I just I was of course taking photos. Usually the host is the one that does the lights, the clock situation,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
but I just want the performers to worry about performing.
Sure.
Yes.
That's
Sure.
it. I'll take care of everything else. Yeah.
So let everybody know where they can find you and DBJ Comedy.
Yeah, pretty much on all social media platforms. So you can find on Instagram, mostly active on Instagram, DBJ Comedy, Facebook, DBJ Comedy, YouTube even, Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, pretty much everything. If you type in DBJ Comedy,
It pops up.
it pops up. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
How long was that? How did we do? But tell me the extra thumbs up. Don't tell me numbers. How long were we on?
An hour and 3 minutes.
Oh, really?
Look at you.
Wow.
Nice. Oh, okay. I was afraid. I was like, I feel like I spoke way too. Yeah, I was like, man, did I?
No, usually, because he usually puts a clock up there for me, and he didn't today.
Oh,
We're right on time, so that was
Nice.
awesome.
nice.
All right, so thank you so much. And this
Oh.
has been Duane Burress Jr., no
Nice.
relation to Candy Burress.
Yeah, on Hannibal Burress, classical Burress. Yeah.
Oh, you back.
But relation to the Duane Burress who wrote, Duane Burress, who wrote the song for Mary J. Blige.
Yeah.
That's
Wrote
pretty
the
cool.
song, I Love You, yeah.
All right, so thanks so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Seriously.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching another episode. It is a new week, so go own it, and don't forget to mind your favorite minx and join us next time. Have a great week, everybody.